GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered.
And that's MVS and Justin Watson.
With some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues.
If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up.
Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow,
comma, semicolon, period, next sentence.
to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man Jrich.
Yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
And Jay.
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he? How
So
good is
Hold on, Jrich. Jrich, we in the building. We back.
Lake Show, baby. Let's go. Give me the air horns. GM, G, damn, P. Luka. Jrich, how we feeling, chat? How we feeling? K-Dot 5 for 5 at the Grammys. Lakers got Luka. Life is good, baby. We back. Welcome in. It is February 3rd, 2025. It's a wake up with Ray and Jay. K-Dot, they ain't like us. Jrich, how you feeling, baby? We been gone, but we back, baby. How you doing this morning, Jay? How you doing, people? In the chat, family was popping with y'all. We got in the damn building this morning. Where we at, Jay? We got Ty DeClaire in the big, yeah, we're all Lakers all day, yeah. Street clothes Davis for Luka is wild work. Stop, man. Y'all disrespecting AD. AD averaging 27, 13, and 4, and y'all talking about street clothes.
Is he averaging 27 for real?
Yeah, I think he's ninth in the NBA in scoring. He's very good. He's very good this year. Big part of the reason why LA is 5th in the West. But who we got in the building, man? 2 funerals next Sunday. Chiefs and Drake. Yeah, it ain't looking good for Drake, Jrich. Kendrick Lamar, 5 for 5. Just took the broom out. Swept the shit up at the Grammys, Jrich. How you doing today, baby? Let's get you in the building. How you doing, Jay?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
We got this new thing. Let's see if the chat. Let's see if the chat's gonna work. We got this thing, Jrich. Where's the chat at? It's supposed to. There it is. Look at that. Look at this, Jrich. Let's go. How you doing, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, Kendrick won his Grammys. Yeah, it's funny that you're like celebrating the Luka trade, but like you also root for the Mavs when convenient. So I feel like as a fan, you should be conflicted here.
Here you go.
You cheer for Dallas when it's convenient, and now you're cheering for the Lakers because they got Luka. I'm trying to figure out exactly where we're at. I mean, you guys can get on Drake if you want. I mean, I've been on Kendrick's side this whole time, so it's not like I've been a Drake fan through this whole thing. I've been very much on Kendrick's side. But yeah, so Ray, we're here already, talk to the people about why this trade makes sense for the Mavs more so than the Lakers. I get why the Lakers did it, but why does it make sense for the Mavs?
Listen, I'm a Lakers fan, Jay. It's been a rough couple of years since the bubble. I haven't been able to wear this jacket often. Every now and then we traded for Westbrook. I wore the jacket.
Remind the people why you bought the jacket.
Remind
the people why you bought the jacket.
I bought the jacket. I'm a Russell Westbrook fan, man. I like Russ. I like Russ at UCLA. I like Russ. He's one of the best players to ever do it, man. But this trade,
fair.
I think this trade is. I think it's going to work out for Dallas. I really do. Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving and pick and roll situations, having that guy down there, I think it's going to be fine for Dallas for the short term. I don't know how it's going to work out for LA, but we got a superstar. And a lot of people say this was the biggest trade in NBA history. Like, I don't know if you've gone that far. How do you feel? How do you feel about it when you heard it, when you saw it, as somebody who's not a fan of either team? And, I mean, you like the players, but you're not like a Luka lover or a LeBron. So what did you think of the deal?
I mean, yeah, like I do like Luka a lot. I think he's a great player. But even for me, like, again, I wouldn't say I'm a avid NBA fan by any stretch. I hardly watch the NBA at all. But even still, I'm like, in what world does this make sense? Like, especially when it's on the back of the De'Aaron Fox trade, which it looked like they got a larger return for De'Aaron Fox in some respects than they got for Luka Doncic in Dallas.
But it's just interesting, man. AD is chopped liver. I mean, he is a big part of the reason why the Lakers are in 5th place in the West. Like,
I wanted to ask you this because one of my buddies asking me, like, what is this trade? Like, what does it mean? Like, I'm hearing all about it. It's one of my soccer friends. And I said that AD was a top 30 player. And maybe that's underselling him. Maybe that's overselling, depending on, how you feel about AD. But I was like, he's at least a top 30 player.
Go on mute.
He may be even higher than that if you want to.
Maybe. Stop. Yes, he's much higher. It depends
on how you value AD.
He's much higher. He's much better than that.
Okay, he's much better than that. Again,
that's blasphemous, dude.
All right, cool.
Jimmy Butler's like 28. So Anthony Davis is a lot better than that. Like, he's a lot better than top 30. Come on,
Jimmy Butler ain't playing, so
he's 4th in the NBA in WAR.
Why are we talking about him?
In player index performance, man. He's a top 10 player in the NBA, Jrich. He's a top 10 player.
Cool, but he ain't Luka Doncic, and he's not carrying you to a championship. And I do want to address the comment, Ray, because you and I privately have talked about this.
No. You are speaking of things you know nothing about. How do you say he's not going to win?
Oh, really?
He helped carry them to a chip a couple of years ago. What are you talking about? They won a chip a couple of years ago.
He helped carry them, or he did carry them? Because those are two different things.
What has Luka done? And what has Luka carried his team to do?
Are you going to take well, he carried his team to a NBA Finals.
And got 4-1.
And then to a conference finals before that.
And got 4-1.
He played against a very good team with 2 very talented, high-end players. What are you going to do? He's only one guy, okay? But either way, I wanted to address the comment talking about Anthony Edwards, because you and I have talked about this, how I was sort of right about Anthony Edwards. And someone said in the comments, is Luka a star now because he's in LA? And he's talking about when I talked about Ant, how he's not going to be a star till he's in LA. And I think it's interesting because you were talking about taxes, you were talking about this and that.
The chat said he lost $100 million on the trade. It's true. You come from a state. There's no state income tax in Texas. There's income. That's just factual. What do you mean I'm talking about? That is like fact. There's no debating that.
I'm just saying that, like, all this stuff is really overblown. Like, it really is. Talking about taxes, talking about, okay, he lost money. That, like, ultimately, he didn't lose money because of anything he did. The organization said, you don't deserve this money, and we're going to take that away from you. Because it's not like he did anything to not earn that contract. He's deserving of that contract. They just didn't want to give it to him. And that's fine by them. But we're going to see what the ramifications are of it, because it's just really interesting that you trade a player like Luka Doncic, which, again, maybe you don't like his work ethic. Maybe you don't think he's going to ever lead you to a championship. That's fine. But the way they went about it was very, very strange. They're like trading away a star player to still compete. And I think that's very, very weird. You just don't really see that happen, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, it was a big trade, man. So AD going to Dallas, I think it's going to work all right for Dallas. I think him, Kyrie, pick and roll. You got Gafford down there. They don't have Finney Smith, who's with the Lakers as well. They got him out of Brooklyn. He was in Dallas a couple of years ago when they went on that little bit of a Western Conference final run. I like it, man. I like it for LA long-term, business-wise. At least there's some hope for stardom in the future after LeBron is done playing. Luka can be that guy. Hopefully people will want to play around them. And I do think for Dallas, at least for this year, this was a team that was in the finals last year. Kyrie's there. If Clay can give you 15 good minutes where he can shoot the ball, and it's going to be 80 and Kyrie in pick-and-roll situations. So I'm interested to see how this one plays out, Jay. But we got a lot to talk about, man. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. We've been gone for a week. We do the show every Monday. So if you're new to the channel, every single Monday, me and Jrich are on here talking through sports, NFL, whatever's going on, hot topic items in the sporting world, Jay. But before we get into it, some content news, man. What's up on the channel right now, Jay? And what do we have to look forward to? There is a mock draft that I dropped yesterday. So if you guys did not get a chance to see that, yeah, go check out that mock draft, man. We got a lot of people watching those mocks. Matt Miller put out one today as well. Looks just like mine, Jrich. So if you
does it?
There's a lot of commonalities, similarities there. But I dropped one, Jaxson Dart in round 1. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. We'll talk about him as well. So check out the mock on the channel, as well as Devin Neal. I wasn't able to kind of talk about this on the last time because the old GQ was hacked off. But that's done. We got the hackers are gone. They're out of the way. The Hackoff is finished. So make sure you follow me at RayGQ on X. What other content pieces do we have on the channel, on the DDFFB channel, Jay?
Yeah, so we had the rookie mock that you, Scott, and Shane did on Friday, I believe. So that dropped on the channel. We had the new trade show from Gabe and Ty, which is brand new. And then actually just before the show, I dropped Scott Connor's follow-up to his podcast from last week. He was talking about running back buys and talking about running back efficiency in 2024, trying to highlight some players that he's thinking about buying this offseason. And so this is the video that is now live on DDFFB, so you can go check that out after the show. But Scott's basically highlighting a smaller section of what he talked about in the last podcast. If you didn't listen to the podcast, it is also in the show description for that. But a great episode just talking about efficient running backs from last season that could be dynasty buys heading into this offseason.
Yeah, check out all the content. So go to DDFFB. We did a 3-round rookie mock following the final day of the Senior Bowl. I think it was Thursday night.
Of practices,
Scott,
yeah.
Shane, and I, we did a 3-round super flex, 1.75 tight end premium rookie mock. You can find that on DDFFB. And then on my channel, Ray GQ, NFL content, NFL mock draft today. Matt Miller just dropped a 2-round NFL mock draft over on ESPN right before the show. I'm going to review that. So stay locked in. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, the quarterbacks from the Senior Bowl, and that's really where we're going to spend a lot of time, is talking about our experience down in Mobile, the ability to talk with different scouts, player personnel directors, NFL guys, Mike Tomlin there again doing what Mike Tomlin Oh, it seemed like it was so many head coaches and OCs and GMs. Really great experience down in Mobile. So we're going to have some fun talking about that today. And Super Bowl, of course, is on Sunday. And
word.
Man,
we're not going to do the show for Super Bowl.
I was, all of this shit is new to my kids, man. They don't know. They don't remember last time the Chiefs and the Eagles played. So we're watching NFL Network, and we're watching the game. We're watching the replay of the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. Hurts was dialed in. I know go pull his numbers up again, Jay. He was dialed in. I mean, Smitty was balling, A.J. Brown was balling, and then they had a running back that wore number 26 at the time, but it wasn't Saquon Barkley.
Miles Sanders?
And all I'm doing is I'm looking like, damn, you swap out Miles Sanders for Barkley, and this is I am leaning Philly. My early lean, Jay, is
really.
I am leaning Philadelphia in this one going into Sunday. We'll give our final predictions at the end of the show. How did Hurts do in the game? Because he was balling, dude.
Yeah, I mean, 24 points in the first half, right? Only 11 in the second half. That was kind of their Achilles heel there. But yeah, 27 for 38, 300 yards, touchdown. Then he also had 15 for 70 and 3 on the ground. The freest money is probably the Hurts touchdown. I don't know what it's at now. I know he probably got bet down like crazy. It opened up at like plus 100, even plus 105 some places, and now it's got to be way below that. But yeah, Hurts played great. That first half, they were playing out of their minds. Spags adjusted, and the Chiefs barely came back to win. And honestly, Ray, would you be shocked if it was the same type of game script with Philly getting out ahead early? And can they stay out of their own way and win the game ultimately is kind of going to be very interesting.
I'll tell you this. Isaiah Pacheco had a lot of juice in that game. He doesn't look like the same guy right now after the injury. I was like, damn, that's the Pacheco we fell in love with. We'll talk about the predictions at the end of the show, but I'm excited. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I'm excited for the halftime performance. I'm excited for this week. I watched a little bit of the Pro Bowl games. I don't know if you did or did not, but
nah.
I watched it because they did a lot of fun shit my kids like. Tug of war,
for
jumping in the
kids and
things.
stuff.
Oh my God, they scored 70 points. Like my kid, my God. So no, I didn't watch it, but I watched it because the kiddos wanted to watch it. So all I was doing watching that was praying nobody got hurt. I mean, you got Neighbors and Bijan Robinson smashing into each other down the field. I'm like, dear God, just don't get hurt in the freaking Pro Bowl games, man. But let's talk about it, Jay. Buying or selling. Oh, hold on. Richie says right here, hey, when can we all buy the Sick Didi merch, or have I missed the announcement? Jay, can you tell the people what we were doing in Mobile? What were we doing? I had a little photo shoot with the merch, right?
Yeah, old GQ had a photo shoot. So we just got to get the pictures over to the developer, and the site should be up fairly shortly.
Hopefully this week.
Again, I have to finish
Friday.
the pictures,
Yeah.
so they're still waiting on me. But once we get those done, hopefully this week, I think at that point he's pretty much done. So it should be up very,
we
very
did a
soon.
legit
So this
photo shoot
shirt,
with
your
stands.
hat, and a bunch of other stuff too. Yeah, it was cool though. Good
good.
little photo shoot we had. Yeah, people like it.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about these players, man. This is what people want to know about. The rookies. What did we see? What was real from fake? There were a lot of clips. All I'm going to say is there are a lot of clips floating around on X where people are getting excited over throws and runs. There might have been 20, 30 real minutes of full speed contact, going full speed. It wasn't. What were your thoughts? Just give your general thoughts of the event. Tell people why, if they're fans of the game, fans of football, why they should come. Like it's an open event to a lot of people to interact and engage with your favorite sports superstars of the past. I mean, it's all kind of former players there, coaches, the collegiate players, just your experience. I believe this was your third year going down there. Can you just talk about that real quick?
I mean, I think the thing that's interesting about the Senior Bowl is being there multiple years. It's not just getting to know the people that are there and run it and understanding how it all works, but it's also just like you've kind of talked about, you learn what you're seeing a bit more. And that was more evident for me this year than I think even last year, where it's like you understand what they're doing, what you want to see out of players as you're watching them go through the drills. Like the more you see them execute this stuff and go through things, you understand what looks good and what looks bad, right? And so that's where when we talk about a player like Tez Johnson, who we'll get to, and you probably heard a lot about all week, it's not because he's necessarily spectacular, but he's giving you the same type of vibes and success that we've seen from players in the past in exactly similar scenarios. And so you're not just necessarily looking at a player and saying, okay, he can be good because he's getting open, but it's like he's getting open to the degree we've seen in the past from other players who have translated to the NFL. And so there's just little things like that. But this year was all about the defense, man. Like this is probably the best defensive crop I've seen at the Senior Bowl in ever. And I wouldn't even say by a minimal margin. Like it was a massive defensive effort that they got in Mobile. And so if you just love football and you love defense, like that was probably the most exciting part of the whole week, was seeing defenders that are just absolute monsters and are game wreckers compared to, on the offensive side, there was a couple of good players, but it wasn't quite the same talent level that we saw on the defensive end.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now. Rubio said, I thought you had to be with the press in some capacity to attend. No, you could just, people have their kids there. You can walk right in. And if you've got kids, it's really cool because they block off all of us. Like you can't get around to a certain section, but they let all the kids stampede through the stands to get down there to get autographs from their players, take pictures. Yeah. So honestly, we get no promotion or kickback from the Senior Bowl, none of that shit, man. But if you like football, if you're down there, if you've got the time, I highly encourage you to go. And everybody is there. College coaches, Kalen DeBoer,
man,
they're all there.
Marcus Freeman was there, and that was so
Marcus
cool,
Freeman
man. Down
there. It's so cool to see these guys up close and personal. So go. My thoughts, I agree with you. It's always interesting to me to go down there and we sit back on our couch and you're looking at these players, right? And you're like, oh, this guy's 207 pounds. No, this one's 199. You got to be over 205. And then you get down there and they look the same. Like, Jay, we're standing next to these guys, the running backs and the receivers, and you're like,
yeah.
You're like, man, I'm bigger than that dude. Or I'm the same size. Now, tight ends, linemen, defense, those are monsters, right? Those are monsters out there. But some of these players that we do these trivial, just trying to slice and, you've got to be 202 pounds plus. You can't tell the damn difference. Like, you can't tell. Like, they all look the same, and then the ones you think are small, they weigh. It's funny. Everybody kept saying, Woody Marks is 208, and then you look at the weigh, and he's 215. He was 215. So it's just,
you look 215, too.
He was a big dude. It's always just interesting to see that play out. And I agree with the chat. There's a lot of people putting shit out there just for clicks and clips. I saw somebody say, I heard Dart was bad. I disagree with that. I don't think he was bad at all. To be honest, the quarterbacks really just didn't do a bunch. Like there wasn't a lot of...
that practice was very lackluster.
It's a lot of one-on-one situations that are mostly skewed to the offense, especially from the receiver standpoint and one-on-one drills. And even from a defensive line standpoint, those one-on-ones against offensive linemen, a lot of those drills are skewed towards the defense. So there wasn't a lot of live team-on-team reps, even 7-on-7. It's not like that. It's practice. So take all of it with a grain of salt, but we're going to discuss some of the things that we saw. I'm going to ask Jrich, is he buying or selling the hype with some of these players? So let's pull up the news clip, and We'll get this thing going. There's Luka right there. There's Luka. And then we didn't talk about De'Aaron Fox getting traded to San Antonio. So De'Aaron Fox, another superstar on the move. And I really like this. Fox and Wemby going together is going to be a nice.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a nice
nightmare.
Pair. It's a nice pair. But Jay, let's start off with the Senior Bowl MVP and probably the best story of the Senior Bowl, Jack Bech, former LSU wide receiver, went to TCU. He won Senior Bowl MVP. He caught the game-winning touchdown on the final seconds of that game. He had a phenomenal week of practice, big, physical. He's not going to wow you with any kind of testing numbers. I don't think he's some elite athlete, but just dog, can block, can catch, physical. He won Senior Bowl MVP. And then if you hadn't heard his story all week, his brother, Tiger Bech, who was also a football player, was tragically killed in New Orleans about a month ago or a couple of months ago. So everything that Jack had to go through, it was just a really cool experience. It was awesome to get to meet him. He's put together. Are you buying the hype on Jack Bech being a difference maker in the NFL at the receiver position? What are your thoughts? Now, we got all the good stuff out of the way, giving him his props for what he did. I thought he was probably, if we're being real, probably the best receiver there, at least top two or three overall.
On his team or overall?
Overall, at the Senior Bowl. I think he was like top 3 receiver there overall. But are you buying the Jack Bech hype or not?
I would say to some extent. Because the things that he does well, he does really well. He's not just a player that you look to and say, okay, he's big, but he doesn't always play big. He doesn't always use his frame. He doesn't really box out defenders. Like, he does that very, very well. And that's where he's one of those players that regardless of whatever his speed is, players and coaches are going to look at him and say, he's a guy that if we need something in the red zone, he could probably be that 4th receiver that you could throw it up to and just make a play. He's not going to be a guy who probably sees a ton of volume, but if he blocks well, he can play special teams, and he provides that red zone threat, he's a player that probably deserves to be on an NFL roster. Like, Ray, I was talking to someone about it, and he's not going to be this slow, I don't think, but reminds me a little bit of like Jake Bobo in the way that Jake Bobo fills in for DK Metcalf when DK Metcalf gets hurt. He's on the roster, and he ran a 4.9. Like, Jack Bech is better than that, but he's still a player who can contribute to a team and be usable regardless of whether the starter is available or not. And I think just the way that he carries himself and the way that he's able to get downfield and make plays in the air, he is going to be usable as long as he can do enough other things to contribute to a team. But he's probably not going to be a starter, a 2, or maybe even a 3, but he could be like a wide receiver 4 for a team.
Yeah, I think he's in that 3 range. I think he could be a solid wide receiver 3-4 team. Is he a guy that I'm projecting or profiling to be the primary target over a 1 or 2 or even a tight end? Not yet, but he's a football player, and he's got really good size. He's put together very well. I'm not going to say I'm buying the Bech hype as an elite producer, but I want him on my football. That's a player that I'm like, damn,
his stock is rising for sure.
Him. You know, we need another receiver. I don't know if he can be the complement to CD, but I want him on my football team. I thought he had a great week and a phenomenal story, man. Let's get to
Greg said Alec Pierce. But he's not going to be as fast as Pierce. Yeah. I want him to be an Alec Pierce, but he's not going to be as fast as Pierce. I think that's where he fails from that perspective.
Gotta drop that white. Gotta drop that white comparison.
Well, we got Mac Hollins too, but I think Mac Hollins might even be faster than him.
Mac Hollins isn't a bad one at all.
It's not a bad comp. Not a bad comp at all.
All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball and talk about Marshall edge Mike Green. Jay, I told you before we got down to Mobile, I was like, I'm interviewing Mike. Like, I want to see Big Mike. He's going to be a first-round pick. I think he's going to be a lock for the first round, and depending on what he does at the Combine, a chance to push himself inside the top 15. In my latest mock, I gave him 11 overall to the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers fans weren't even mad. They were like, hey, we got some other priorities, but we'll take Mike Green. If you're gonna say we're going to get him and Nick Bosa, we could live with that, yeah. GQ. We're not going to rip you for that pick. Powerful. Explosive.
As advertised, right?
As advertised. Everyone has seen the clip with him absolutely annihilating Josh Connerly, another potential first-round pick. Ariante Essery, the big tackle out of Minnesota, gave him some problems. And Gray Zabel did a good job against him as well. The NDSU center, he was as advertised. There's a video of it. We did an interview. It's on the channel, a short of Mike Green. But are you buying the Mike Green first-round hype, Jay, after what you got to see in person of this young man?
Yeah, I'd probably even buy top 20 hype at least. I want to go as far as top 15, but that may be more team dependent, depending on needs and et cetera. But I mean, this is a guy that led FBS in sacks this year. He's been great. He's looks the part. You know, one of the things I've always told you about Mobile that's funny to me, because I'm like 6'2", 220, the DNs don't look that big compared to me. Like, I'll walk up to some DNs and I'll be like, shouldn't you be like a lot bigger because you play defensive end in the NFL, or want to at least? Mike Green was definitely the part. Like, he's big, he's fast, he's strong. Like, he looks like an NFL caliber DN and Absolutely. A very high producer at that. So yeah, I'm absolutely buying the hype. I think the question is like, how high can he go? Because it seems like he could be on a top 10 trajectory. And I do think the reason why that is some of the DBs could fall who are slated to go a little bit higher than him potentially. And even some of the offensive linemen, I wouldn't be surprised if teams continue to prioritize the defensive end position. And Mike Green's going to do a great job for whatever team that drafts him.
All right, we got another defensive player, another guy who was hyped up coming in, and I think he absolutely delivered. Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Dude, he's huge. He's huge, but not fat, all muscle, powerful, explosive. I gave him to Carolina at 8 in my latest mock that I dropped yesterday. Are you buying the Shemar Stewart hype from what you saw down in Mobile?
Yeah, man. This guy's first step and burst off the line was incredible. Like, there was nobody that could keep up with him at all. If he even got a step on you, like, there was one play I remember they were doing 11 on 11s, and Stewart wrecked the play in probably a second and a half because he blew past Mason Taylor, who was on the end, and the right tackle.
That was Bartholomew.
And still,
it wasn't no damn Mason Taylor. Stop it.
Oh, it wasn't Mason Taylor. That was Bartholomew.
He had a yellow helmet.
And the LSU right tackle who was there as well. Like, he just bowled past them and didn't sack the quarterback. He just tapped the ball out of his hands, plays over.
Screaming.
Just like
went,
that. It was
went crazy.
Ridiculous. Yeah, like, this guy is the real deal. And then in all the defensive lineman drills, he's just clearly one of the best guys there. Even compared to Green, I think, like, the way that he moves and the speed to which he plays, not quite as powerful, but still a great edge rusher and going to be great in the NFL. He's really good.
I'm definitely buying the Shemar Stewart hype. And let's tie a bow. Just the D-line class. I mean, Dayon Walker out of Kentucky, 6'7", 300
Him and
million
Stewart
pounds.
On the same D-line was so
Walter
unfair,
Nolan. There's another kid from Toledo. I mean, it was just the D-line's won. I mean, when you look at the rushing stats of the game, the defensive line position is loaded. Walter Nolan I thought he looked incredible. Fastest through the drills. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. There was somebody in the chat that asked me about Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. I thought he was okay. I thought Princely Umanmielen was much more explosive off the edge. Ivey looked more like a big run stuffer. Tim Smith out of Alabama, another big run stuffing defensive tackle.
We talked about him a little bit too.
This D-line class is awesome. So I thought Shemar Stewart definitely handled up. But let's have some fun. And maybe the best offensive player in Mobile, Jrich, are you buying the hype on the best offensive player in Mobile, fantasy-wise? Skill position player, pretty much dominant all week, and he caught a 2-point conversion in the game. Talk about a Miami tight end, Elijah Arroyo. And the expectation, so a lot of people thought Elijah was 3', 230. He comes in 6'4.5", 250 pounds. Talk about the movement skills, size, speed, and today in Matt Miller's most recent mock, he was tight end 3 off of the board, as I predicted could happen after this. And you know where he went? And I love it. You know where he went?
No. New Orleans?
Dallas. So are you buying the hype on Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo, Jake?
Look, tight end 3 is bold, but it's wide open as well. Like, there is no tight end 3 right now. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this dude was cooking guys in practice. Like, yes, it's one-on-ones. Yes, you know, it may not be the best players, but, like, he was by far the best pass catcher in Mobile. And that was consistent from day 1 all the way through day 3 of practice. He was just the guy that nobody could cover. And for a tight end to do that is very, very impressive. Like, he was clearly separating at a better rate than even the receivers were, which was crazy. And, you know, everyone was talking about him after day one when he ran that stick and nod and absolutely destroyed whoever was trying to cover him. But it's like, it's not just a flash in the pan. It wasn't just one day. It was every day, the entire practice. So I'm not surprised to see him tight end 3. Like, that's where I'd say he's deserving of going. The question is where is he going to end up there? Because there is some other players who did look good as well, but he was probably the most impressive. It's just, if you prioritize a pass catching tight end and maybe less on the blocking side, oh my God, he's definitely worth a high second round pick. Absolutely.
Well, let's stick with the tight end. So I had him split up in the show doc, but I'm gonna move him around a little bit. I thought Arroyo was great, and he's huge. Again, people thought he was around that 6'3", 230 range. He's 6'5", 250, and he moved like a big wide receiver. There were some people, not me, but there were some analysts and scouts weeks before the Senior Bowl, Jay, who said that he was the best field stretching tight end in this class. And I saw that, and I'm like, okay, we'll see. He was the best field stretching tight end in Mobile, I'll tell you that, and it was not even close. So Elijah Arroyo's rise, I think, is going to continue as we go through this process, and it's just another name to add to what is already an absolutely stacked tight end class. Jordan Vanek in the chat, shout out to JV, said, as a Panthers fan, any defensive lineman would be worth it. So, I mean, it could be Walker, it could be Green, it could be Shemar Stewart. D-line is loaded. Jay, let's talk about another tight end since we're in the vein of tight ends. Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. A lot of people were excited to see him. You know the stats, right? 1,500 yards, 100 million targets, 100 receptions, set all these records. Everybody was excited to see Harold Fannin. And what I wanted, what you wanted, what a lot of people wanted was to walk away from Mobile saying, yeah, he's locked and loaded tight end 3. He confirmed all priors. Everything that the data said was backed up on the field. Are you buying or selling the Harold Fannin Jr. hype? And I believe, I skimmed through the mock. I'm going to do a breakdown of it later. I don't think he was in Miller's mock. I don't believe he was in there. Mason Taylor was in there in the second round. I don't recall seeing Harold Fannin, but I could be mistaken. What were your thoughts? First of all, answer the question. Are you buying the Fannin hype that the fantasy community has, or did you see something contrary?
So I don't want to make the same mistake I made with Rashee Rice, because Rashee Rice didn't look that good in Mobile, and he looked a lot better at the Combine. So I do hope that Fannin can regain some of his stock and potentially build up the momentum he had going into Mobile, but you have to be selling the hype coming out. And it's not just because he didn't look great. He definitely had moments where he looked better, especially day 3 of practice. He definitely improved what we saw from the first 2 days, but it's more so that he didn't separate from the other tight ends there. Whether you're talking about Brennan Stewart, whether you're talking about Mason Taylor, whether you're talking about Arroyo, whether you're talking about even the UCLA tight end because of how good he blocks. The Georgia Tech tight end is a great blocker as well. So the fact that you know that he's more of a pass catcher and he wasn't the best pass catching tight end in Mobile, that is where it becomes a bit of a problem. I didn't think his size was terrible, but definitely you could tell he's a bit undersized compared to some of the other guys there, but he just didn't separate enough. And I think, you'd feel very similarly, but do you think there's a world where he can regain some of that draft stock? Because while he didn't look like the best tight end in Mobile, he definitely could look like the best tight end of the Combine potentially. So I do think there's a world where he can kind of regain that, but I did want to bring up Rashee Rice because that was something that we talked about when we saw Rashee Rice in Mobile. He just didn't look like he was better than anybody else there. Jaden Reed was there. He didn't look better than him, but obviously now at the Combine, he drastically improved that stock. So I wanted to know your thoughts on Harold Fannin.
There are a couple of comments here. Jack Gray said Fannin didn't show out like people thought he would. And then Nate has one right here. He asked the question, was Fannin just trying to show he can block to improve his draft stock? So I'm just going to tell y'all this. I charted everywhere that he lined up. Not one time in any practice did Harold Fannin line up in line with his hand in the dirt. Not once. He played offline, sort of in that flex H-back role, and they had him at fullback. Yeah. He did not line up in line, hand in the dirt as a traditional tight end. I'm not saying that is pro or con. I'm just giving you the information. He was the type of cat that I wanted to walk away and be like, oh, no doubt. You got Warren, you got Loveland, and then it's Fannin, move on. We'll see who 4-5 is. there's definitely a conversation. I don't think he was the best tight end in Mobile. I don't think he played bad. Like, I don't think he was bad at all. He looked fluid in the receiving game. I just thought there were some other tight ends. When you look at their size, you look at their alignment, and you look at their usage, while not Bowling Green numbers that Fannin had, I did think what ended up happening is that pack shrunk, and it became more muddled. And I really want to see who drafts him, because he's not that big. He's tall, but he's not wide. He's not girthy. He's put together well, but I don't believe early on he's going to be an inline guy. So it might be one of those tight ends where it takes a couple of years for him to put on that size to be able to do what an NFL offense likes. But you mentioned a name. We're not saying we're selling the Fannin hype, but I do think that you walked away saying,
his draft stock is not going up.
I'd be just fine with a couple of these other guys. And Jay, I'm going to bring them up because we're just here, and let's just live in the tight end world real quick. We went through Arroyo. We talked about Harold Fannin. Mason Taylor. I thought he was the best tight end along with Elijah Arroyo. It was those two. He's huge. I mean, we got the profile of him up. We did an interview with him. His fucking head and neck are massive. And played in line, fluid in the receiving game, more than enough athleticism. And in Miller's mock today, I think he was 55 overall to the LA Chargers. So, yeah, I saw their draft. They went Genty in round one, as I had in my mock. They went Genty round one, Mason Taylor round two. And I think for me, if you're telling me in these rookie mocks, even in a tight end premium, I got to take Harold Fannin at the 112, where I get Mason Taylor at the 208, Elijah Arroyo at the 2, I'll just kick the can at tight end. As good as we talk about this running back class, this tight end class is loaded. Loaded, Jay. You buying or selling the Mason Taylor hype?
I'm absolutely buying. I honestly was really impressed with him in the way that he moved. He was very fluid, caught the ball really well. And I think especially when he got into the pass blocking reps, you saw him kind of work through that. He struggled a little bit early. Then he got very engaged, kind of got built up to the moment. Like, we saw him do a bit of everything very, very well, whether it was catching the ball or blocking as well. He really showed out good on every aspect of his game. And I think that's why he's rising, right? There wasn't really anything that we saw where we said, he could probably do better there. He had his struggles like everyone did in Mobile, but he bounced back just as much as probably anybody in the class period in Mobile as well. And he had extremely high highs, separating at a high rate. There was a play where some people might have seen it where I tweeted it out. He literally pushed someone to the ground in the middle of a route who was on him as he was breaking away. Like, he's very, very strong, very difficult to cover. And I think the biggest thing for him that I noticed, his strength with his hands in tight windows is probably the top of the class or very close to it. Because we know that, Tyler Warren is great with that, and even Colson Loveland as well. But Mason Taylor's strength through the catch point is probably the best in the class. It's very, very good, and that's going to be great at the next level.
And Jrich didn't even know his dad. He shook his hand, met the Hall of Famer, and didn't even know who the hell Jason Taylor was. Had no clue whose hand he shook. Just followed my lead, shook his hand, and I was like, you know who that was? That's Jason Taylor. Oh, that was him? That was his dad? Come on, Jrich.
He was wearing sunglasses, man.
Okay.
Looked like Pitbull out there.
Yeah. Come on, man. Mason Taylor played very, very well in that one. We are going to go to a quick break, and then after the break, we got Jalen Milroe, we got Jaxson Dart, we got Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal. We got a couple of more players we got to get through buying or selling the hype. So as somebody said in the chat, we got a bunch of people in the damn building. Hit that thumbs up button, like the content. We'll be right back after the break. Appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all pulling up and tapping in. This is Wake Up with Ray and Jay every single Monday in the off season, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're here. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, like the content, subscribe to the Fantasy Football channel at DDFFB on YouTube, and pull up all the dope content that we have here. Subscribe to the podcast feeds. Make sure you're following Let's Talk Ball. I'm putting all my NFL content. I'm going to try to do, Jay, I told my wife, I'm going to try to get back to doing what I used to do, man. Podcast, just every day, talking ball, talking about something in the space. So make sure you are subscribed. Let's Talk Ball, Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts at, because that's where the content will be. So let's get back to the buying and the sellings of some of these players that we saw in Mobile, and let's get right to it. Jrich, Jalen Milroe. People were excited about Milroe. I have. You have. Thor Nystrom, top 6, first round of Superflex. Are you buying or selling Jalen Milroe coming out of Mobile?
I don't even know what to say, Ray. Like, if I had to give Jalen
just
Milroe a grade, I would just
give what you saw.
I would have to give him an incomplete grade. Like, honestly, I didn't see anything that's told me that he deserves to be bought. And maybe you could say he did some things that deserve to be sold a little bit, but I wasn't that high on him to begin with. Like, I don't think you're drafting Jalen Milroe because you believe he's a great passer. Did he show he was a great passer? Not all the time, but if we're talking about the best moments from this practice in particular, that was when they did 11 on 11 and they were going into the end zone, right? And Jaxson Dart made some really nice throws, really nice plays, but so did Jalen Milroe. And like, that was arguably the most important part for me about the practices. Did he throw a bad pick to Jack Kaiser? Yeah, he did, because he didn't see him, right? But the big thing with Milroe is, like, if you're buying him because he's a great runner, not because he's a great passer. And so it's like, did he show us that he's a good runner in Mobile? No, because he didn't run at all. But as a passer, I thought he was what I expected. Not great, could be better, made a couple of decent throws, leaves something to be desired. But if you expected him to look good as a passer, I don't know what you've been watching at Alabama for the last 2 years. So maybe a slight sell, but he wasn't very high for me to begin with.
I definitely think that there were some clips circulated to really make him look bad. I don't think he was just dreadfully awful. It was a whole new environment for him. You could definitely tell that he was a quarterback, and shout out to Scott Connor who pointed it out. He didn't know how to hand the ball off under center. I mean, he's under center.
Oh my
He's under
goodness.
center, and he's trying to turn around. And, you got to move your feet, and he was stumbling. Like, they had to pull him aside. They had to pull him aside and just kind of show him how you turn around to hand the ball off from under center. You could tell that is something new for him. He talked about doing things that he wasn't comfortable doing or wasn't accustomed to doing. I don't think he's that great of a rusher, and I've said that before. I know people look at that LSU game, and he ran for 300 yards, but you watch him week in and week out, I don't think he's an instinctual runner. I think he's a runway runner. When he sees it, he's athletic enough to go. His hands are small.
Yeah.
But it's like Garrison said, the 7-yard hook was an issue, but then he's in gun, and then he drops probably the best pass in Mobile, the end zone throw. I forgot who caught that, but it might have been Bech. It was beautiful. It was beautiful in the corner of the end zone, dropped it in the bucket. Ultimately, I'll just say this. He needs to not be mocked in round 1 at all.
Yeah.
Don't mock him at number 6. I don't believe he's a first-round pick. I think he's a day 2 guy, and not even early round 2. I think he's a developmental, feels a lot more like where Kellen Mond got drafted, which I believe was at the top of the third
early
round.
3. Early
Top
3
of
is
the
usually
third
where those
round.
backups go, right?
Malik Willis was in the 3rd round. I think he's a developmental quarterback, and by developmental, I don't mean by week 8 he's starting. I think he's a developmental quarterback. So if I had to say buying or selling, I loved his attitude, the things that he said. He seems like a really good kid, but I'm not, give me Kenny Pickett, right? Kenny Pickett looked better in Mobile than he did. So those are my thoughts on Milroe. And I hope that, things work out for him, but you cannot continue to mock him inside of round 1. It's doing a disservice to the people that follow you and people who are part of your community. So I would be selling Jalen Milroe. Here he is. Jaxson Dart mocked him 7th overall to the Jets in the mock that I dropped yesterday. A lot of hype and steam going into Mobile, a lot of hype and steam coming out of Mobile. What were your thoughts, Jay? Are you buying or selling what you saw from Jaxson Dart? The hype. I'll just say this. He looks good. He's put together. I mean, he is a thick quarterback. He is not he looked bigger than Milroe. He's not as ripped up and muscular, but like his body type, he looks wider, he looks more stout than Jalen Milroe did. His arm was good. I thought, I'm not saying the placement was always right, but there's no question that he can sling the ball. There's arm strength there. I put out a clip on X at RayGQ, all of his rush attempts over 15 yards, just to get an idea of his athleticism and his mobility. I think he's a tactical scrambler, but not a true dual threat quarterback at the next level. He's not running for 500, 600 yards. He's not that type of athlete. I don't know if I walked away like, oh my God, this is the guy, but I thought he got better every day. And I can definitely see, for me personally, I don't know how you feel, I could see the tools. Like I could see a team saying, okay, let's bring him in, sit him for a little bit, go down that J.J. McCarthy path. I could definitely see that being the case for Dart. And I was a big fan of him at USC, and it's not his fault that Caleb transferred there. It's not his fault that Caleb transferred there and did his stuff at USC, forcing him to go to Ole Miss. He's experienced. I like Dart. I think he's the QB3 in this class. I like Jaxson Dart quite a bit. I'm buying the hype.
Really? Okay, so that's where I struggle with Jaxson Dart. Because part of me is selling the hype.
Yeah, D-Bro.
Not because
I think Nix is a better runner than Dart. I think
Nix is definitely a better runner than Dart.
I think Nix is a better athlete than Jaxson Dart. I think he is.
He was a better runner than Dart as a freshman at Auburn.
Yeah,
he's
I think
way
so
better.
Too.
But so here's my thing with Dart, right? And this is where the question is ultimately comes down to is, well, what is that, value, right? Because as you mentioned, he's rising. Some people have him in the top 10. Some people have him in the top 5. I personally think we are seeing sort of a Will Levis type of rise from Jaxson Dart. Not to say he's going to fall to the mid-second like happened with Levis, but I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up just being Shedeur and Cam near the top and then Dart kind of falling in as QB3 a little bit further than we thought. And that's the only reason why I bring that up. But he's definitely deserving. Like, I've talked about it with you guys a lot. His best play probably no one's ever seen, because why would they put that on X? But he drops back in the pocket, goes a bit to the right, slides to his left, steps up in the pocket, and then throws to the corner of the end zone. It wasn't completed, but it seemed like a play where it's like, okay, this guy clearly has pocket mobility. He was able to see the rush, slide, and move in the pocket and deliver a ball on target in a tight window. Again, it wasn't completed, but you just see the tools and the traits. And then it's funny because in that same practice, Milroe hits a seam route, and right away, who comes running in after hardly practicing? Jaxson Dart, because he needs to put his shit on tape.
He wanted to compete.
And he made some great throws after that. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if I believe the hype, right? He's like the exact opposite of Milroe. Everyone's like, oh, Milroe looks awful. He can't complete a pass. He started the practice 0 for 12. And everyone's like, oh, Dart has such a live arm. He's doing this, doing that. These guys are doing the exact same thing in practice. So it's not like one is doing significantly more than the other, because both of them for the first 2 days were doing next to nothing throwing the football. So it's just interesting, but I definitely buy that he's rising up boards. I just don't know if I'm so bought in that he's like a top 10 or even a top 15 draft pick.
It will happen. I've done this long. Just wait until the steam starts to rise. It will happen, and
it's probably gonna happen.
I think he's the QB3 in the class. I think he's gonna get a shot to start at some point in the NFL. I mean, Spencer Rattler will start. Jaxson Dart will start. I guarantee you he will start in 2025 at some point for some team. I like him. I liked him at the start of the season. I'm not QB1 or QB2 liking him. I'm not propelling him over those two guys. But I thought he had a fine week of practice, and I guess you could say I am buying the Jaxson Dart hype. Jrich, let's pivot to another position. You want to talk about some running backs? Buying some hype?
Oh, yeah.
Some of these RBs. Let's talk about the big dog, OG2, Ollie Gordon II. And we've got a profile dropping this week on Ollie. All world, his sophomore season. All world. And if you go back to that sophomore season, I'm going to say this again. Ollie Gordon led the country in rushing his sophomore season, with Oklahoma State throwing the third most pass attempts in college football. Let that sink in for a minute. They threw the ball more than damn near every team in college football, and that dude still led the country in rushing, over 2,000 combined yards. Awesome, phenomenal season. And then going into his final year, his junior season, shit hit the fan in the summer. DUI in June or July. Mike Gundy and the team falling off the rails, didn't win a goddamn Big 12 game. KIU did not win one game in the Big 12 conference. The team was awful. Ollie's performance suffered. But I got to build a bond with Ollie, Jrich, and the people might think I'm joking. Are me and Ollie Gordon tight? Are we good now?
You and Ollie Gordon are definitely cool. Ollie Gordon could be on the show.
Yeah, we could probably
easily
get Ollie on the show. That's my dude.
Probably
we chopped it up with Ollie. First impressions, he was built like nobody else there. That is.
He looks like a real running back.
He looks like a real running back. He is big. He is solid. I think he weighed in at 233. I don't know where it's at. It must be in the legs. It must be in the back. I mean, he is lean, tall, and Chris Johnson said it. CJ2K was there, and day one, he was like, yeah, that dude, go put him in the NFL offense. And I believe Ollie's going to be drafted on day 2. I know this final season at Oklahoma State was a mess, but talking to different scouts, it's interesting the things that we hang our hats on, and I'm talking to different scouts, and they're like, I don't give a fuck about 2024. Like, look at what he did when the environment was good. Like, that's a footnote on the page, what he did this final season, right? That's a footnote on the page. He looked different. I am 1,000% still in on Ollie Gordon II. Are you buying or selling the Ollie hype coming out of Mobile?
I think you have to buy it because it was not just us saying it. I believe he also won the Running Back of the Week award, voted on by the other defensive linebackers and stuff like that. So everything right now, even though his stock doesn't seem to be crazy high, like you should be buying into what he can be because while there was a lot of talented running backs there, he's just the guy that looks the part. And it sounds stupid as hell to just like say that, but it's not like we're the only ones saying this.
No.
He really did look like a guy that can play on all 3 downs, that can block, that can catch fairly well, especially compared to the other guys there. He can obviously run the ball between the tackles. Like
started too.
He was just the only
first up in running back drills, started the game.
Yeah.
I mean, he
very, very good in every aspect. He for a dude who is 3 to 4 inches taller than every other running back and has like at least 15 pounds on all of them, there was no difference. No difference in the way that he operated, the way that he played, in the play speed even. Like, it was just all there for Ollie Gordon, and that is a massive asset to look as good as all these other players, despite being bigger and a little bit heavier as well. So I thought Ollie looked great all week.
I would love for Dallas, 2nd, 3rd round, maybe not the 2nd at 44, but in the 3rd if he's there. I believe he'll go day 2. He looked different. He looked like a real running back. The foot speed was smooth. He caught the ball well. I don't know if he's going to be deployed. I always say there's a difference between running backs that can catch passes and those that can be deployed as pass-catching weapons. I don't think he's going to be a pass-catching weapon, but can he catch 3 balls a game like Joe Mixon? Can he be Joe Mixon?
Yep.
I'm not saying that's the comp, but yeah, I think he can be just a big
about
grinder
the size
running
of Mixon,
back
right?
that can catch a couple of. He was probably the most impressive overall running back to me. And there's some more that we need to talk about because we had strong feelings going in about certain players. Dro C said, is he going to stay a Cowboy? I would love for Dallas, Dro, to take a shot on him. But this was the guy that coming into Mobile, Devin Neal out of Kansas, where we put the profile out and we wanted to walk away being like, that's the guy coming out of Mobile. Devin Neal, people were ready to put him at RB3. Remember that shit before Mobile? People were like, RB3, RB4. Great interview with Devin Neal. Check that out on the channel.
Yeah.
Talked about how being a dual sport collegiate athlete has prepared him for this moment. He looks all of 220. He's another big dude, shorter than Ollie, but stockier, big dude.
Yeah.
Are you buying or selling the Devin Neal hype? Because I hyped him up a lot too going in. Where are you at leaving Mobile with Devin Neal?
I think I'm about where we were to begin with because while I thought he could rise, he definitely didn't separate himself in any aspect, right? I expected him to be a little bit better of a pass catcher than he was. It seemed like he just didn't have the agility to be an elite level pass catcher or at least a high level pass catcher like we saw in college to some extent. He was fine as a rusher. His feet were great. I thought he moved well. Again, didn't expect him to be very fast. I thought he interviewed really well though. Like, I think it's interesting because when you talk to the players, you have a better understanding for their mindset. And he was a player who compared himself to Joe Mixon.
He did.
And, maybe not Joe Mixon coming out of college, because I'm pretty sure Joe Mixon ran a 4.4 out of college. But just the way Joe Mixon plays now and the way that he operates in the NFL, like he catches pass out of the backfield. He can make guys miss. He is great through the tackles in his zone scheme. And he talked about that. He's like, that's the way that I think I could play in the NFL. And I think when you look at him play, he's not going to be a super dynamic pass catcher, but he's definitely an asset in the passing game, much like Joe Mixon. So I really liked that comparison for him. He's about the same size as Mixon. Mixon's a little bit taller because he's 6'1", 220. But I think both Ollie and Devin Neal in particular can operate in that type of role and find success in the NFL as like a 3-down type running back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not selling the hype. I'm not buying the hype. I thought he was fine. I thought he had a good week.
Yeah.
He just didn't do anything to stand out. There was nothing that Devin
There's a reason
Neal
why
did.
guys are ahead of him, right?
Yeah, I would put a couple of, if I had to rank them, I would put him down a little bit. There were a couple of players that just stood out more, and you really see it in person. And I'm telling, I think you see it in the beginning of the practices with the drills and just watching the fluidity going through the bag drills. The ones that are stumbling around, they can't pick their feet up. You see how comfortable they are, even in situations where they're getting creamed by Demetrius Knight, the big linebacker out of South Carolina, when they're doing those pass blocking drills. I mean, all the running backs are getting wrecked, but you want to see the ones that step up and show some tenacity to get in there and do it. In the receiving game, I don't think he's going to be deployed as a pass-catching weapon either. I thought Neal was fine. I thought he was fine. I really enjoyed talking to him. He's got a great build, and I think on day 3, he's going to be a nice complimentary running back at the next level, and you know how running backs are. They all get opportunity.
Yeah.
As long as you can make a 53, you'll probably get to play at some point. Let's talk about another running back who we liked going in, and I thought he, too, got better every day. And I believe he led his conference, his team in rushing this past weekend on the actual game. But UCF running back R.J. Harvey, he also looked very different because I believe he was the shortest running back there at 5'7", but he's rocked up. You could tell he hits the weights. He goes to the gym. He's in the weight room. Very well put together. I think 5'7", 207, so just a ball of muscle. I thought he was good every week. I know day 1 we were kind of like, I don't know. He doesn't look that explosive. But once the pads got on, I thought he looked competent in the receiving game. And it's difficult to really judge them in practice. The running backs, it's not live tackling. It's not. They hit the ground, but it's not live on collision. So you really have to look at some of the drills, the footwork, the tenacity in the blocking drills. I thought R.J. Harvey was good. I think he's a day 3 pick. Day 3 running back, round 5, round 6, somewhere in there, makes a team. But, you know, I did a mock where I drafted him, I think, goddamn, in the 201, 220. Like, no, I'm not going to go that high with R.J. Harvey. So I would sell my hype, but that's not because I don't think he played well. Did he do anything to separate himself from the other guys? And think, we're just talking about the cats who were in Mobile. This doesn't include Genty, Hendo, Judkins, Johnson, Hampton. Your boy Scadaboo didn't show up. No Scadaboo. Scadaboo stayed home. We'll talk about that in a minute. Are you buying or selling R.J. Harvey?
Yeah, I think you have to be selling a little bit. I did think he showed well, like especially in the receiving game, because you didn't see that very much on his tape. But he talked about that when we interviewed him too. He said he wanted to show that he is capable in the receiving game, and while he did drop some passes out there, he did show a little bit as well, especially when it came to going across the face of defenders, which some players did struggle with. Devin Neal was one of those players. But Harvey did look good. He's quick. He's sudden. But I think the thing that I love about his game is his vision. And that wasn't always easy to see in Mobile because, 1, the defensive linemen were wrecking every play. And 2, Ray, I don't know if you noticed this, or at least it felt like it, but they were running a bit more gap scheme than zone scheme. And I felt like for him, he's much better in a zone scheme. And he did actually mention that when we interviewed him as well. And so he just seems like a player that's a little bit more scheme dependent than I think you'd like. But in the right scheme, he could be very, very good. But I think it will probably have to be a zone scheme for him. I think it probably will.
I think he's a day 3 running back. So he falls in that cluster of just like Bichelle Tootin. There were a lot of those guys that just... They're going to be good players. This is not an indictment.
Martinez is another one that I think
on Harvey. And we'll talk about the guys that we don't highlight. But let's get to the final running back. And I think the biggest running back riser on the week for me and for a lot of people out there, SMU running back Brashard Smith. I didn't know really what to expect coming in. He was the smallest running back there, 5'10". I think 195 is what he weighed in at. So right in that A-Chan. Gibbs was 199, I believe. So he's right in that range. But he didn't look any smaller than anybody. He looked fine. Like size-wise, he looked fine out there. He's a pass-catching weapon. He's very, very comfortable in the receiving game. It was very easy for him in those drills. 3-year wide receiver at Miami before transitioning to SMU. Incredible season this year for SMU, who made a college football playoff run. He was my biggest riser from the positions, period. Like, he went from a guy that was in that 15 to 16 range to, if he lands in the right scheme, he's going to be very good for that team and for fantasy. He was explosive, great in the receiving game, and pretty good between the tackles. Very impressed with SMU running back Brashard Smith.
Yeah, he's extremely talented. Like, I think he should probably be maybe even a day 2 pick, like in the 3rd round.
I wouldn't be shocked, Jay.
Because, man, like and the reason why it's so great for people who like play fantasy football is like, he's on the right side of the committee, right? He could be that Austin Eckler type of guy who's catching 6-7 passes a game out of the backfield. I don't think he's going to be quite as dynamic as Jahmyr Gibbs, but he is a guy that can do it in the receiving game and wasn't bad between the tackles. Like, we talked about how the running backs struggled. Pretty much all of them struggled throughout practices because of how good the D-line was in the team drills. But he didn't look any worse than any of those guys. So you give him similar holes, and then there was even a couple plays where he did navigate through the hole and make a play. Like, he's a dude who should be rising, and a lot of people should be excited about because he can catch passes very, very well. It's clear he's a converted wide receiver, but he does have the skills of a running back that should translate to the NFL, and I would not be shocked if he was a 3rd-round pick.
Now, I talked to a couple of scouts, and they didn't have any kind of expectation for him coming in, and that's all they were talking about. They were like, this is an NFL player. One scout in particular said, you put him in Washington with Jaden Daniels, and there's a massive problem. Like, you put him in Washington and let him be that outlet for JD5, creativity of Cliff Kingsbury. They said he would be a matchup nightmare. And some of the comps that were thrown around, which I'm not going to go this far because Bucky Irving displayed the type of missed tackle ability in college that most running backs don't. But those were the vibes that I was getting. You deploy him like Bucky. He's a 40% guy, but when he's on the field, you find every way possible to get him the ball. And if you just want an idea of his explosiveness, he had a big kick return in that game where you just see the juice. So I think as long as he continues to and I loved his interview. What did he say? He said, man, what did he say, Jrich? I'll play any position, man. I just like playing ball for real, dude. Like, that's I just like playing ball, man.
Yeah, it's cool because you asked him about how would he feel about being in a committee, and he talked about the various running backs that he kind of plays like because he is more of a pass catcher, and he's like,
what did he say?
I'll play anything, man. Yeah. He's like, I just like to play ball for real. That's legit all he said. He's like, put me anywhere you want. Put me in early downs, have me run the ball, catch the ball. He's like, he doesn't care. He just wants to contribute to his team. And I think that's just like, he has that right attitude. And especially when you talk about a player who is just as explosive as he is, it's only going to take one play and he'll be gone just like that.
All right, let's talk about some receivers as we wrap this up. Xavier Restrepo, one of the receivers that for me, I thought he would come into Mobile and have a Ladd McConkey type performance, not be Ladd with the Chargers. But if you go back to Mobile last year, he was uncoverable. He's quicker than everybody. It was Ladd and Roman Wilson. I was like, oh, this event is tailor-made for Xavier Restrepo. I thought he got better every day as well. He is short and wide. He is a stocky wide receiver. He's short and wide. I didn't get the same kind of quick twitch vibes that Ladd displayed. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Overall, in general, I think the receiver position was weak. Overall, honestly. That doesn't mean he didn't perform the best out of the group or he didn't do a good job, but I look at these guys and I'm like, I remember the feeling last year, watching Roman, watching Ladd, and you're like, oh, these dudes are, they're 4-3, they're fast, they're quick. I didn't get that from Restrepo. I guess if I had to say where I am selling the hype that I had on him coming in, but I am still buying the fact that I think he's going to be a solid slot receiver. I don't think he's not Ladd. That's not his game, but I still am buying that he's going to be a good, it feels weird to say like a possession slot receiver. You know what I mean? Like a good chain mover, but maybe not this dynamo, explosive, twitched up receiver that we thought coming in. I thought he was one of the better ones of the group, but I didn't walk away saying, holy shit, like I need my team to draft Restrepo with the top 40 pick.
Yeah, going in for me, much like you, I expected him to look the part.
No.
And I thought
No, Jimbo.
No Amon-Ra.
He
no
said
Amon-Ra
type vibe. No.
He just didn't look like a top receiver. It just didn't. Like it's that's where the problem with your expectations when you talk about these players. Like if you're mocked in the second round, like you should look like a second round receiver. And I don't think that he did. You could look to multiple receivers in his group. Tez Johnson was one of them who looked better than him. I believe he was also in the same one with Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel as well.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a second.
And we'll get to them, but like he didn't separate himself from me. And honestly, Ray, like I wouldn't be shocked if he was a third rounder at best. Like I think his stock is falling a little bit.
Fine. I think that's fine.
Because he just didn't really look like he was any better than the guys ahead of him. And to your point, I don't think we necessarily saw very many second round receivers in Mobile that we've seen in the past.
This is what I think. I think he's Cole Beasley, man, but thicker, like a thicker version of Beasley. That would be a good one. So you put him in a system where the team is going to prioritize getting. Here's how I view these guys. You drop Xavier Restrepo into. Give me a team, Jrich. Give me a team that you plop him into. Where's the team?
Put him in Buffalo. Why not?
Okay, let's drop him in Buffalo. You drop him in Buffalo. Where do you think he would rank on the pecking order of the offensive coordinator trying to prioritize targets? So you've got Keon Coleman.
5th, probably.
Khalil Shakir probably going to out-target him, right? Khalil and Keon.
Dalton Kincaid, probably.
You put Kincaid in there.
Realistically.
I know he had the drop, but you put Kincaid in there. So
and maybe best, James Cook, too.
Maybe the 4th best option out the gate in Buffalo. That's how I'm viewing, like, which one of these guys can be dropped into an offense and you're like, that OC is going to be like, we got to get that guy targets. I thought he was fine, not great. Let's go to another receiver, Jay, probably the best separator of the group. We got Tez Johnson. And all the talk going in was he's 156 pounds. He's not a big guy. We interviewed him. I think Scott and Shane got to interview Tez. We talked to him some. What's interesting is all the Oregon guys were little. Dylan Gabriel was tiny. Tez Johnson was tiny.
Terrence Ferguson was huge.
Who was huge?
Terrence Ferguson.
Yeah, well, Terrence Ferguson was dope. He's awesome. He's in the South. I'm glad he started to get some hype. Oregon's got some players. Are you buying or selling the Tez Johnson hype? You were impressed with Tez. You were very impressed with his ability to win. He's 156 pounds. Are you buying the hype on Tez Johnson?
I am, yeah. I think, there will be a point where maybe the hype gets unwarranted, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was a productive player at the next level. Like, he did separate well against, like, high caliber potential NFL talent. He showed that his size really doesn't matter, whether it was in the open field or just his ability to navigate through coverage. Like, he did do a good job of that all week long, and it wasn't just in one-on-ones where he looked great. He did it in 7s. He did it in 11s as well, and he always showed that he has a gear that not a lot of players have, and his speed is very deceptive. Like, I didn't necessarily go in thinking he was a bit of a long strider and more of a glider, and he definitely is. You saw safeties who were trying to cover him, and they didn't realize how fast he was moving until he was already past them. And I think that's the part about Tez that's kind of surprising about his game to see it in person. It did seem like he plays faster than it looks, and so it's very deceptive to try and cover him in that way. Thought his hands were good. I love talking to him. Like, he's a very smart, intelligent player. Like, he's very aware that he's 156 pounds. He's not going to be taking a bunch of hits because he knows he can't do that.
Every play in the slot.
In the slot, every play.
Every play. No outside reps for him, not one time. In the slot every single time.
Yeah. I just think that depending on where he goes, he could be utilized similar to the way that Worthy was utilized this year. It may not be much more than that.
How much did Worthy weigh? How much did he weigh at the combine?
I think he was.
Remember.
I think it was about 180.
While you look that up, I'll say, because I'm looking at some of the comments. Jimbo said
he's listed at 165, dude.
Who was 165?
Xavier Worthy's listed at 165.
What is Tank Dell? Just look up Tank Dell real quick. Jimbo said Amon-Ra didn't have Amon-Ra type vibe either in the draft process. Not over here. I had him at RB as wide receiver 5 the whole time.
Also 165.
I had Amon-Ra at 5. It was like Chase, Smitty, Waddle. I had Amon-Ra at 5, so I thought he was always better than where he got drafted. 160. If he can get up there, if I've comped Tez Johnson to Tank, I said he's a faster version of Tank Dell. Tank Dell ran a 4.5, I
taller,
believe.
I'm pretty sure, too.
Tez is going to run faster than that. I'm just going to say this. I'm buying if he lands in the right situation. If he lands in the right spot where, like Tutu Atwell's found success in the NFL, and I definitely think he could be that type of player. I don't know if he's as twitched up as Tank, but he's faster than Tank. He's faster than Tank Dell, and he creates separation very easily. So depending on the scheme in which he lands, I know there's some people who are like, I'm in. I don't give a shit if he's 156. Like, bulk him up. I'm in on Tez. I'm very curious to see what he runs.
Tim's saying Tez will have to play like Tyler Lockett, and he actually talked about that.
Okay,
he's like Tyler Lockett, Devontae Smith, and Tank Dell. They all have the ability to win without taking big hits and playing smarter, right? They're very aware of their size. But he did mention Tyler Lockett. Like, he said that. He's talking about how Tyler Lockett is a player that he sees himself playing like in the NFL, not taking the big hits, being smart, just getting down and just living to see another play because he's only 55 pounds or whatever it is, right? So all these guys, like, as long as you play smart, and we talk about this with quarterbacks all the time, like, you don't have to take big hits as a quarterback when you're scrambling, but some quarterbacks do. And it's the same with wide receivers. You don't have to take big hits if you don't want to. You just have to be able to play smart.
I'm trying to reconcile with the fact that he's 156. That's small. That's tiny, right?
Oh,
and
he
when
was
you're playing,
little, yeah.
like when you're in the summer and you're whatever you're listed at the start of camp, that's not where you're playing at. Like, you're probably not playing. You're losing weight. You're probably not playing at that. But Smitty is small. Dell was fine until Dell got hurt blocking on the goal line, right? On a play, the first injury. And then he catches a touchdown pass, and then his teammate barrels into him, and that's
just a freak injury.
It wasn't like he got hit by a safety and broken to pieces.
And broken
or Devontae Smith. The one time Devontae Smith got rocked was when, I think it was versus the Saints, when he was fighting for extra yards and then got smashed, not going down. In the right system and situation, I think I think Tez Johnson can be very good. So I'm cautiously buying, depending on where he lands. Just a different NFL shit. You can't hit the players anyway. You can't tackle. You can't hit him anyway. And if he takes the Tyler Lockett role, catch it and fall, he was an easy separator here in Mobile, Jay. Let's finish with these two receivers, the Iowa State guys, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Higgins, day one, to me, did not look very comfortable. Didn't look very good. It did not look good. I was like, oh, man. He looked awesome day two. He looked awesome day three. Got a touchdown pass from Ollie Gordon in the game. His teammate, Jalen Noel, I didn't know a lot about him going in. I'm not going to lie. I did not know a lot about him going in. I walked away saying, man, this guy could be a fun piece to an offense. He's got speed. First day makes an amazing back shoulder catch. He's an easy accelerator. Do I think either of these guys are game changers at the next level? No, but good players. I thought both of these guys put a lot of good shit on wax this week.
Yeah, Higgins was probably the bigger disappointment for me, only because I expected this. Like, again, we talked about Jack Bech and like the way that he plays big. Like, I thought Higgins could play a little bit bigger given the fact that he's massive. He's like 6'3" and probably 220, 230 almost. He's a big guy. Didn't really play like it, in my opinion. But when you talk about Noel, he definitely plays bigger than his size. He separated very well. He's arguably one of the best route runners there, in my opinion. Like, he was really turning defenders around, giving them problems. And even when he was covered, he was very difficult to cover, even because he could make contested catches and would go up and make plays like we saw multiple times. So I think Noel is a player that you could look out to maybe be potentially a third-round pick. I don't think he's going to go in the second unless he runs really fast, but he definitely was separating at all three levels, and especially down the field. He's a very tough cover down the field.
I think he's going to run very fast. And as we wrap up, you guys hit us with some, if we didn't mention any names that you specifically want our thoughts and opinions on, I mean, there are a couple of players that we interviewed that we didn't even talk about. Arian Smith out of Georgia and some others. But if there are any other players that you guys want just our opinions or feedback on, hit us up in the chat as we wrap this up. Jimbo asked, how fast do you think he's going to run? Better be 4 flat at 156, talking about Tez. I think he's going to be in the low 4.4s. He said he's going to push for Worthy's record. I think that's what he said, or 4.3s.
He can be high 4.3s.
Maybe high. Okay. Maybe at best.
High 4.3s.
I bet you Prize Pick sets the line at like 4.38, and I would take the over.
You think so?
I think he's a little.
I could see them pricing it pretty low, like a 4.31
like
or 4.33.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
He's fast though.
I thought
fast. Yeah.
Higgins, Noel, Tez Johnson. I thought they all had good weeks. I thought they all had good weeks in Mobile, man. I thought they all had good weeks. Let's see. We got some more people. Oh, Donovan Edwards has made an appearance. So let's put. Jimbo says, who was the best interview? Best interview in your opinion? You said you like Donovan Edwards. You said that was the best.
Donovan Edwards was really good. He was really good. Like, I really liked him. I really liked Tez Johnson. I really liked Terrence Ferguson. Devin Neal's interview was really good. If you guys haven't seen that one. Yeah, like it sounds crazy, Ray, but a lot of the guys from the big schools, like you can tell they're media trained. They're very well spoken. Like they're intelligent players. I don't know what it was, but a lot. Yeah, the Oregon guys were really, really good. Devin Neal was great, and
we didn't even capture it, but I got a selfie with him because we were waiting on Elijah. Dylan Gabriel. I really thought Gabriel was cool, man. That dude interacted with every kid. I was talking to him just about his, how's everything going? Great week of practice. I really enjoyed talking to Dylan Gabriel. I would love for a team to draft him as just a priority backup, just a backup quarterback. I think his arm strength is there. He's short. Maybe. He's a short quarterback. So when he didn't throw the ball, it's because he couldn't see. It's because he couldn't see behind the offensive line. But I enjoyed talking to Dylan Gabriel. Man, I just Ollie, but not as an interview, but just talking to Ollie on the side, just chopping it up with OG2. Yeah. I enjoyed that. And I thought the interview you guys did with Jaden Higgins at the end, I think it was Scott and you. I thought Higgins' interview was cool. He was just a likable guy, man. A likable player, a likable guy. Let's see what else is in the chat. LaQuint Allen. Yeah, he was an interesting build. And this is why I say you don't really, you see the numbers and you think, 6 foot 207, that's a big back. And then you saw him in person, you're like, he's the smallest dude out there.
Yeah.
I mean, his ankles are like this big, his legs are tiny, but he's 6 foot 207, and that is the difference. You see him next to Woody, and you think Woody Marks is two of LaQuint Allen's, right? But they're 6 foot 207 versus 5'10", 215. I thought Allen was fine. I had him in a tier 2 running back cluster prior to the Senior Bowl. I dropped him down. Not because he was bad, but I maybe overvalued some of the things that I saw on tape versus what I saw in person. But Allen was cool. I thought Allen was a fine running back. Riley Leonard. Yeah, Scott talked about Riley Leonard being I think
Riley Leonard was fine, man.
Riley Leonard looked fine.
Nothing wrong with him compared to everyone else.
The team fit. He said Denver drafts him sometime on day 3, and he's Bo Nix's backup. Never a threat to Nix. Does similar things. And in the event that Nix goes down and he's got to come in for a 2-week stretch, hey, Riley, you're about to run it 15 times a game and just get the ball out quick to the tight ends. I think he can do that. Who else do we have? Tyler Shuck, no thank you. Seth Hennigan.
You hate Seth Hennigan.
I don't hate Seth Hennigan, but no.
We're in practice, and Ray's recording some stuff on his phone. Seth Hennigan walks in the game. He's like, damn it. What's the phone?
Come on, man. I didn't do that. Here's one right here. Who should have been at the Senior Bowl and who should have skipped it? Scatterboo should have been there. And Gunnar Helm. I think Gunnar Helm hurt himself.
Gunnar Helm is the big one.
Gunnar Helm hurt himself.
I think he would have looked good, but
Gunnar Helm hurt himself. Yeah. Gunnar Helm hurt himself.
Him not being there is a big deal because there was a lot of good tight ends.
I don't know why the hell he wasn't there. He should have been there.
He's tired, bro. He needs to. He's prepping for the combine. He's tired.
He should have been there. Let's see what else. Without being too critical, worst interview, worst vibe. But Tootin?
I don't want to say who my worst interview is. I really don't.
Well, really one of them, they've got to be the ones that were the long enough to actually do it. Like not the one they're rushing them off the damn field and they can't,
No, that stuff is different, right? Like, because again, perfect example is RJ Harvey. Your interview with RJ Harvey, we probably won't ever drop it, but it was like very rushed. But then the one that we got with Shane after was really, really good. Really, really good. He's much more comfortable and all that stuff. But yeah, no, we won't go into worse interviews.
Yeah, we won't do that. Who else do we have? The safeties look good. Yep, the safeties look good. LaQuint Allen. Donovan Edwards. I don't know. I enjoyed the time that he's big. He's way bigger than I thought. Holy hell. He's way bigger than I thought he was.
I would just say that I would not sleep on Donovan Edwards because just talking to him, you could tell that the last few years were very difficult for him. And he might have lacked some confidence and some of the things like that. Like, I do think that there could be a much higher upside to Donovan Edwards than we've seen recently. Like, if he gets back to what he used to be, then I think there could be a lot of...
What about Garrison right here?
This is your boy. Yeah. This is your boy.
Jake Brenningstool.
Yeah. Brenningstool is... He's big, too. Yeah. Very long arms. Yeah. Great hands. Catches the ball away from his body very well. Like, it's very interesting to see him.
Dude. Terrence Ferguson. I thought Terrence Ferguson was up there. I mean, he's also an interesting guy because you watch him on the field, and he wears that number 3 or he looks big as shit on the field. What did he look like in person, man? He looked like a shooting guard.
Big, man. Yeah. He was really big.
He's tall but lean. He's a redhead. The tight ends are awesome. Brenningstool was dope. I think Brenningstool was a big riser. Any thoughts on the Chip Kelly hire? Do you think Chip Kelly makes it more or less likely for a certain type of quarterback? Because as soon as Chip got hired,
Will Howard?
Like, Jaxson Dart, man. Like, let's go. Dart and Chip. Like, that seems like that would be a good fit.
Yeah, it could be. I'd be curious what type of quarterback. Like, Ray, I think it's interesting, and maybe you could speak on this as well. How does Chip Kelly merge with Pete Carroll in terms of like their offensive philosophies? Because it almost seems like they're a little bit different in the way they'd run an offense. But if it's more the Chip side, I'd be pretty in. If it's more the Pete Carroll side, I may be a little bit more out because we know there'll be a lot of running the football, right?
Thoughts on Trevor Etienne quickly?
I thought he was better than I expected him to be. Between the tackles, he's still very questionable, but he's good in the receiving game, very well spoken. If you haven't seen the interview of him, that one's out on this channel, so you can check that out. He's a cool dude, man. I like Trevor Etienne a lot. He's a cool dude. We had a funny conversation.
Did we cut that part out of the interview?
We did cut that part out.
Dude. Yeah, I asked him. Yeah. We were talking about some other stuff, and we were like, this ain't gonna go in the interview. But Etienne was good. Not big though. Not a big running back at all.
No.
He's not.
But he's aware of his skill set and what he does well too, right? Like he doesn't try to be something he's not. He knows he's more of a pass catcher, more elusive than a downhill runner, and he definitely plays like it. So and he was another guy. He also won running back of the week for his team, which for me was surprising because I thought it may go to somebody else. He was in the same team as Brashard Smith, RJ Harvey, and I believe Devin Neal. So he was the guy that came away as the most impressive. So. That was surprising for me, for sure.
Kyle Williams, wide receiver out of Washington State.
I'd say inconsistent, but he had some wow plays for sure. He separated pretty well at times.
I thought he was fine, but nothing to... did you guys get into any trouble, any funny stories non-Senior Bowl? A lot of just... I mean, we don't...
I don't think so. Not really, no.
We just hang out. It's good being down there, getting to spend time with Jrich and Scott and Shane, the crew, the guys... Talking ball. We're up late every night trying to create content that you guys will enjoy. So hopefully you all check out the content on both channels, right? We do this for you, not for us, because I don't go back and watch the goddamn interviews. So hopefully check out all the shorts Jrich has put up. There's still a few more that have to go up. The Tez Johnson interview.
There's a lot.
A few others. Arian Smith. There's a few players. So just
Tez, RJ Harvey, Ferguson. We have Jalen Royals still.
Talk about Royals. A lot of people were excited about Royals coming in. Where he looked apart, but
Ray, I feel like a hater, but I didn't see anything from Royals.
I didn't see.
I saw nothing that says this guy should be like a second or even third rounder.
Everyone's showing the clip where he pushed down the DB, and I'm just like,
that was Malachi Corley-esque, and how did that work out for everybody? Right? Like, I don't know. It just. But part of it was like he was in that practice that just they didn't do a lot. Like there just wasn't a lot going on there. And that was the one with Dart and Milroe as the QB, the main two QBs at least. So yeah, just not a lot to see there for me. Like, I hope he does a little bit better, but I just not a lot that I saw that I'm like, yeah, we got to have that Jalen Royals.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out. But overall, I thought it was a really good group. I was excited about that Senior Bowl. You had quarterbacks on both sides, a ton of running backs, walking away feeling great about tight ends. And this is my thought. When I do these mocks and I don't give the Denver Broncos a tight end in round 1, it's not because Colston Loveland wouldn't be a fit. It's not because Ashton Jeanty doesn't fall to 22 to the Chargers because I think Ashton Jeanty is bad. It's the strength of this class on the skill position side is running back and tight end. And if I were a team and I had the ability to get Mike Green at 20, and then in round 2 I can get Hampton or Caleb, I would do that opposed to taking the tight end there and then getting a worser version of a D lineman. This is the class where you're going to get starting tight ends and running backs all 3 days of the draft. And there's going to be some cats that go round 7 or UDFAs that I want to prioritize. So this is the start of the process. We got the Super Bowl this week, Combine later this month, individual workouts and pro days, and then we get to the draft. So stay locked in. So everything we're doing on this channel, the things that we're doing on DDFFB, we're going to be pumping out draft content like crazy. So please stay locked in. Please stay tapped in. Hit the music, Jrich, so we can get out of here, man.
It was a good week. Fun week.
Good week.
Busy week, though.
Long
Busy.
week. Long.
Yeah.
Predictions. People want to know the predictions. Adam Zav said, can we get a score prediction? 27-20 Eagles for him. Super Bowl on Sunday. Who you got, Jay?
30-27 Chiefs.
I'm going 33.
We'll probably do a BR show on that today or this week.
Yeah. I'm going 33-38 Philly.
33-38.
I'm going high scoring game. 33-38 Philly. I think the Eagles get it done, man. I think Philly gets it done. And 33-38 Philly. And you're going with KC.
Yeah.
We got BR this week. Make sure you tap in. I know everybody's
Wednesday and Friday.
You guys only do one day a week. Every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Bleacher Report app. Jrich and I, we're doing a show every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Download the Bleacher Report app. We'll put alerts out here on X. We might try to find a way to stream it and do some different things as well. But make sure you're locked into us, Bleacher Report, every single Thursday. Anything you want to say to people before we get out of here?
No, just excited for the Super Bowl, excited for this week. Lots of good content coming out, so stay tapped in for that. And we'll see you guys next week when we talk about the Super Bowl. So it should be a fun show.
Let's do it. Take the over. Take the over on the total points. Have a great week.
I like the over too, yeah.
Have a great freaking week, and we'll see y'all next Monday. We out. Peace.